The Harrison Tower had always been the symbol of success in our family. 32 floors of luxury apartments overlooking the bay with a doorman, a gym, a rooftop pool, and the kind of marble lobby that made you feel like you'd made it the moment you walked through the doors. My brother Derek lived on the 28th floor. He'd been there for 3 years and he never let anyone forget it. I was 27 years old, sitting in Derek's apartment for what he'd called an emergency family meeting, and I could already tell this wasn't going to go well. "Thanks for coming on short notice," Derek said, pouring himself a scotch from the crystal decanter on his bar cart. He didn't offer anyone else a drink. "I wanted to discuss Mom's living situation." Our mother sat on Derek's leather sectional, looking uncomfortable. She was 63, recently widowed and living in the house where Derek and I had grown up, a modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs that was now too big for her alone. "I've been thinking," Derek continued, "that it's time for Mom to downsize. The house is too much for her to maintain and frankly, it's not in the best neighborhood anymore." "The neighborhood is fine," I said quietly. Derek ignored me. "I've found a lovely assisted living community about 20 minutes from here. Very affordable, lots of activities, other widows her age." "I'm not an invalid," Mom interrupted. "I don't need assisted living." "Not yet," Derek agreed smoothly. "But it's better to plan ahead. The facility has different levels of care available as you age. It's practical. It's also expensive," I pointed out. "Those places run $4,000 to $6,000 a month." "Which is why we need to sell the house," Derek said. "The equity will cover several years of care and by then we can reassess." I noticed he said we but meant I. Derek had always been good at making unilateral decisions sound collaborative. "I don't want to sell the house," Mom said firmly. "Your father and I bought that house 35 years ago. You and Naomi grew up there. It's full of memories. It's full of outdated appliances and a roof that needs replacing," Derek countered. "Be realistic, Mom. You can't maintain it on your own." "She's not on her own," I said. "I've been helping." "You?" Derek laughed. "Naomi, you can barely afford your own rent. How are you going to help Mom maintain a house?" "I manage," I said evenly. "You work at a property management company," Derek said dismissively. "You make what, $40,000 a year? Maybe $50,000 if they're generous? You're not in a position to help anyone." My mother's sister, Aunt Denise, spoke up from her chair by the window. "Derek has a point, honey. You're still establishing yourself. It's wonderful that you want to help, but maybe Derek's idea makes more sense financially." "Exactly," Derek said. "This isn't about what anyone wants emotionally. It's about what makes financial sense. Mom needs to sell the house, move somewhere more manageable and let me handle the financial planning." "Let you handle it," I repeated. "I'm a senior account manager at Fidelity," Derek said, his chest puffing slightly. "I manage $200 million in client assets. I think I'm qualified to make financial decisions for this family." He'd been saying variations of this for years. Derek was 32, had an MBA from a decent school, and worked at a respected investment firm. He made good money, around $180,000 a year with bonuses, and he lived in the Harrison Tower, which everyone in our family knew cost at least $4,500 a month for his 2-bedroom apartment. I worked at a property management company, which was technically true. What my family didn't know was that I owned the property management company and 37 other buildings, including the Harrison Tower. But I'd never corrected their assumptions, and now seemed like an interesting time to continue that pattern. "Mom should make her own decisions," I said calmly. "Mom is emotional about this," Derek shot back. "She needs someone thinking clearly. Someone with actual financial expertise." "And you think that's you?" "I know it is. Naomi, look, I'm not trying to be harsh, but let's be honest about our respective situations. I live in the Harrison Tower. I drive a BMW. I manage millions in assets. He gestured vaguely at me. "You can't even afford rent here." The words hung in the air. Mom looked uncomfortable. "Derek, that's unkind." "It's honest," Derek interrupted. "Naomi works in property management. She probably makes entry-level wages. There's nothing wrong with that, but it means she's not in a position to offer financial advice to anyone." Aunt Denise nodded reluctantly. "He's not wrong, Naomi. You're still young, still building your career. Maybe let Derek take the lead on this. Maybe try Section 8 housing, Mom added quietly, trying to be helpful. I've heard they have programs for young professionals now. Nothing to be ashamed of. I just smiled quietly. Section 8 housing. My mother was suggesting I apply for government housing assistance while I sat in an apartment building I owned, listening to my brother lecture me about financial planning. The irony was almost beautiful. Derek was warming to his theme now. In fact, Naomi, maybe this is a good opportunity to discuss your own financial situation. Have you thought about your retirement planning? Your emergency fund? Do you even have a 401k? I'm financially stable, I said mildly. Stable isn't the same as secure, Derek lectured. At your age, you should be saving at least 15% of your income. Are you doing that? I'm doing fine. That's not an answer. Look, I'm happy to help you set up a basic investment account. Nothing fancy, maybe some index funds, a Roth IRA. I can walk you through the basics. That's generous, I said. It's family, Derek replied magnanimously. I'd be a pretty terrible brother if I didn't help you get on track financially. There was a knock at the apartment door. Derek frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. He walked to the door and opened it to reveal Michael Torres, the building's property manager. Michael was 52, had been managing the Harrison Tower for me since I bought it 18 months ago, and he was holding a tablet and looking apologetic. Mr. Williams, Michael said formally. I apologize for the interruption. I need to speak with Ms. Williams for a moment. Hi, Mother? Derek asked, confused. Ms. Naomi Williams, Michael clarified, looking past Derek to where I sat. Every eye in the room turned to me. I stood and walked to the door. What's up, Michael? I'm sorry to interrupt your family gathering, but we have a situation with Unit 2804. The tenant is 3 months behind on rent, and the final notice period expired yesterday. He glanced at Derek, then back to me. Ms. Williams, should I start the eviction process? The silence in Derek's apartment was absolute. Unit 2804, I said slowly. That's Mr. Williams's unit, correct? Yes, ma'am. Derek Williams. 3 months overdue. That's $13,500 in back rent plus late fees. Derek had gone pale. There must be some mistake. I'm current on my rent. I paid last month. You paid 2 months ago, Michael corrected, consulting his tablet. August rent was paid on August 3rd. September and October went unpaid, and November's payment was due 5 days ago. That's impossible. I have autopay set up. Your bank rejected the September payment due to insufficient funds. Michael said professionally. We sent a notice to your email and to your physical mailbox. When September remained unpaid through the end of the month, we sent a formal demand letter for both September and October. That was ignored as well. Derek was frantically pulling out his phone. This is a mistake. I'll call my bank. Mr. Williams, Michael said patiently, I've been managing properties for 25 years. I know the difference between a banking error and unpaid rent. You're 3 months behind. That's grounds for eviction proceedings. You can't evict me, Derek said, his voice rising. I'm a good tenant. I've been here for 3 years. Which makes the sudden non-payment more concerning, Michael replied. Ms. Williams, what would you like me to do? Mom was staring at me. Why is he asking you? I looked at Michael, then at my family, then back to Michael. Give me a moment with my family, please. Of course, ma'am. I'll be in the lobby when you're ready to discuss this further. He nodded politely and left. Derek closed the door slowly. When he turned back to us, his face was red. What the hell was that? Why was he asking you about my eviction? Because I'm the owner, I said simply. The owner of what? The building. The Harrison Tower. I bought it 18 months ago for $87 million. Michael manages it for me, but all major decisions, including evictions, require my approval. Aunt Denise laughed nervously. That's not funny, Naomi. I'm not joking. Derek was shaking his head. That's insane. You're telling me you own this building? This luxury high-rise in the most expensive part of the city? Yes. With what money? You work at a property management company. I own a property management company, I corrected. Williams Property Group. We manage 42 buildings across 3 states. Current portfolio value is approximately $340 million. The number landed like a physical blow. Mom had gone white. $340 million? Give or take depending on market conditions. The Harrison Tower is one of our flagship properties. We bought it as part of a larger acquisition deal. 6 buildings total, all luxury residential. Derek sat down heavily on his sectional. You're lying. This is some kind of joke. I can show you the deed if you'd like, I offered. It's public record. Williams Property Group LLC purchased the Harrison Tower from Coastal Residential Partners in March of last year. I'm the sole owner of Williams Property Group. How? Mom whispered. How is this possible? I started the company 5 years ago with a small commercial property I bought using money I'd saved. I renovated it, leased it out, used the profits to buy another property. Then another. I built it slowly, carefully, reinvesting everything. 5 years, Aunt Denise said faintly. You've been doing this for 5 years? Yes. I started when I was 22 with a $400,000 commercial space in a developing neighborhood. I saw the potential before other investors did. By the time I was 24, I owned 3 properties. By 25, I had 8. The growth accelerated from there. Derek was staring at his phone, frantically searching. Williams Property Group, he read aloud. Private real estate investment and management firm. Specializes in luxury residential and mixed-use properties. Portfolio includes. He looked up, his expression shocked. The Harborview Apartments. The Metropolitan Complex. The fucking Harrison Tower. You own all of these. Among others, I confirmed. But you never said anything. You let us think. I let you assume, I corrected. There's a difference. I work in property management. That's true. I just happen to own the company doing the managing. Mom was crying quietly. Why didn't you tell us? When would I have told you? I asked gently. At Sunday dinners when Derek talked about his job managing other people's money? At holidays when everyone congratulated him on his BMW lease? Every time I tried to talk about my work, someone changed the subject or made a joke about me being an assistant or a secretary. We didn't know, Aunt Denise protested. Because you didn't ask, I replied. You all decided what my life looked like and nothing I said was going to change those assumptions. Derek stood abruptly. The rent. He said I'm 3 months behind. That's not, I have the money. Do you? I asked quietly. He fell silent. Derek, I said carefully, I've seen the financials for this unit. You pay $4,500 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. Your salary is approximately $180,000 before taxes, which means you're taking home maybe $110,000 after taxes and 401k contributions. Your car payment is $850 a month. Your student loans are $1,200 a month. Your rent is $4,500. That's $6,550 in fixed monthly expenses alone. How do you know all that? He demanded. Because I pay attention. You've mentioned your car payment. You've complained about student loans. And I own your building, so I know exactly what you pay in rent. Mom was doing math in her head. That's more than half his take-home pay just on those 3 things. Exactly, I said. Add in food, utilities, insurance, entertainment. Derek's been living paycheck to paycheck for years. One unexpected expense, one bad month, and suddenly he can't make rent. Derek's face was red. I had some unexpected costs. My car needed repairs. $4,000 in repairs, I said. I know because you mentioned it at dinner last month. You had to use your emergency fund. So, that's what emergency funds are for. They are. But you didn't rebuild it. Then your friend got married and you were in the wedding party. That was another $2,000 between the tux rental, the bachelor party, the gift, the travel. Then you took that vacation to Miami. I deserved a vacation. I'm not saying you didn't. I'm saying you've been spending more than you make for months and now it's caught up with you. The September rent hit your account when you didn't have enough to cover it. October was the same. And now November is due and you're $13,500 in the hole. The apartment was completely silent. How do you know all this? Mom asked quietly. Some of it he told us at family dinners. The rest I could deduce from the rental records and the notices Michael sent. Derek ignored 3 separate communications about the past due rent. Derek was staring at his phone, his face pale. I thought I had autopay set up. I thought it was handled. I've been so busy at work. Too busy to check your bank account? I asked. Too busy to read the notices in your mailbox? I get a lot of mail. I thought they were just newsletters or... He stopped, realizing how weak that sounded. Aunt Denise was shaking her head. Derek, honey, how could you let it get this bad? I didn't let it get anywhere, Derek snapped. I've just had some cash flow issues. It happens. I'll pay it all back. With what money? I asked. Your next paycheck? That won't even cover 1 month of rent, let alone 3 months plus late fees. I'll figure it out. Will you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to be evicted from your luxury apartment while trying to convince Mom to sell her house so you can manage her finances. The implications settled over the room like ash. Mom looked at Derek with new eyes. You wanted me to sell the house, while you were behind on your own rent. That's different. How is it different? Mom demanded. You stood here and told Naomi she couldn't afford to live in this building while you're 3 months behind on rent. You lectured her about financial planning while you're facing eviction. I'm not facing eviction, Derek said desperately. Naomi wouldn't evict her own brother. Right, Naomi? You wouldn't actually evict me. I looked at him for a long moment. Why not? Because I'm your brother. Because we're family. We are family, I agreed. But this is business. You've violated the terms of your lease. You've ignored multiple notices. You've failed to pay $13,500 in rent. Those are grounds for eviction regardless of who you're related to. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. I have 42 buildings to manage, Derek. Hundreds of tenants. If I make exceptions for family, word gets out. Standards slip. The business suffers. So what, you're going to evict me? Put me out on the street? I'm going to enforce the terms of your lease, I said calmly. What happens next depends on you. Derek's hands were shaking. I don't have $13,500. I don't know where I'd get it. You could sell your car, I suggested. That BMW is worth at least $35,000. That would cover your back rent and give you a cushion while you figure out a more sustainable living situation. Sell my car? Are you insane? I need that for work. You work downtown where public transit is excellent, I countered. You don't need a $70,000 car. You want it? There's a difference. This is unbelievable, Derek said, his voice rising. My own sister is going to evict me because I had a few bad months. 3 months, I corrected. And it's not because you had bad months. It's because you've been living beyond your means for years, and instead of adjusting your lifestyle when reality caught up with you, you ignored the problem until it became a crisis. Mom was watching this exchange with growing concern. Naomi, you can't actually evict your brother. I can, I said. And legally I probably should. But I'm willing to offer an alternative. Derek looked up hopeful. What alternative? You have 30 days to pay the back rent in full. During that time you can stay in your apartment. But at the end of 30 days, regardless of whether you've paid or not, you're moving out. Moving out? But I paid. The market rate for your apartment is $5,200 a month, I said. You've been getting a below-market rate because you signed your lease 3 years ago before the neighborhood values increased. But you can't afford even the discounted rate. You certainly can't afford market rate. So you're kicking me out anyway. I'm giving you 30 days to find a place you can actually afford, I corrected. Consider it a favor. Most landlords would start eviction proceedings immediately and have you out in 14 days with an eviction on your record that would make it nearly impossible to rent anywhere decent. Aunt Denise spoke up hesitantly. Naomi, maybe you could reduce his rent? Since you own the building. I could, I agreed. But I won't. Derek needs to learn to live within his means. Subsidizing his lifestyle doesn't help him. It just delays the inevitable. You're being cruel, Derek said. I'm being honest, I replied. Something you haven't been with yourself for years. You make good money, Derek. $180,000 a year is more than most people will ever make. But you spend like you make $300,000. The math doesn't work and eventually reality catches up. Mom had been quiet, processing all of this. Now she spoke, her voice steady. Derek, is this why you wanted me to sell the house? Were you planning to use the money from the sale? Derek's silence was answer enough. Oh, Derek, Mom whispered. I wasn't going to steal it, Derek protested. I thought maybe I could borrow some. Just to get caught up. I would have paid it back. With what money? I asked again. You don't have the income to pay it back. You just get deeper in debt. I could get a raise. Could you? Or are you just hoping? Derek, you're a senior account manager. Unless you're promoted to VP, which typically takes another 3 to 5 years, your salary isn't increasing significantly. And even if it did, you'd just spend more. Derek slumped on his sectional, his head in his hands. I don't know what to do. Start by being honest, I said gently. Sell the car. Move to an apartment that costs $2,000 a month instead of $4,500. Cut up your credit cards. Build an actual emergency fund. Live like you make $180,000 instead of pretending you make twice that. And give up everything I've worked for? You haven't worked for any of it, you've borrowed for it, I said. The car is leased. The apartment is rented. The lifestyle is financed. None of it is actually yours, Derek. It's all just expensive borrowed time. The truth of that statement settled over him visibly. Mom stood and walked to the window looking out at the city lights. Naomi, this building you own, what's it worth? The Harrison Tower. Current market value is approximately $105 million. We paid $87 million 18 months ago and put another $6 million into renovations and upgrades. It's appreciated nicely. $105 million, Mom repeated softly. And Derek lives here. In your building. Paying rent to you. Technically paying rent to Williams Property Group, but yes. I've known he was behind on rent for 6 weeks. Michael wanted to start eviction proceedings immediately, but I asked him to wait. I wanted to see if Derek would reach out to me, maybe ask for help or advice. But I didn't, Derek said hollowly. No. Instead, you called an emergency family meeting to tell Mom she should sell her house so you could manage her finances. Finances you would have likely mismanaged into covering your own debts. Derek didn't deny it. Aunt Denise was looking at me with new respect. You're very different than I thought, Naomi. I'm exactly who I've always been, I replied. You all just made assumptions. Mom turned from the window. The house. You said Derek wanted me to sell it. What do you think I should do? What do you want to do? I asked. I want to stay in my home. But Derek's right that it needs work. The roof, the furnace is old, the kitchen could use updating. What if I bought the house from you? I suggested. Fair market value. Probably around $380,000 in the current market. You could take that money and invest it, live off the returns. Then I'd lease the house back to you for $1,200 a month, which would cover my costs for maintenance and taxes. You'd still live there, but all the upkeep would be my responsibility. Mom's eyes widened. You'd do that. It's good business. The neighborhood is appreciating. I've been looking at properties there anyway. And it gives you financial security while letting you stay in your home. That's very generous. It's practical, I corrected. You get security and stability. I get a good investment property. Everyone benefits. What about me? Derek asked quietly. What happens to me? I looked at my brother. At his expensive apartment he couldn't afford, his luxury car he didn't need, his carefully constructed image of success that was built on sand and credit. You have a choice, I said. You can be angry at me for being honest. You can blame me for your situation. You can go tell everyone that your sister is heartless for evicting you. Or what? Or you can use this as a wake-up call. Sell the car. Move somewhere affordable. Build actual wealth instead of the appearance of wealth. In 5 years you could own a home. You could have real savings. You could be genuinely successful instead of just looking successful. And in the meantime? In the meantime you have 30 days to pay your back rent and find a new place. I'll give you a positive reference letter despite the late payments. I'll even help you find an apartment in one of my other buildings if you want. Something you can actually afford. Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then, what would it cost? An apartment I could afford in one of your buildings. I have a 1-bedroom in the Riverside complex for $1,800 a month. It's nice, not as nice as this but nice. Good neighborhood, good transit access, and the rent is less than half what you're paying now. $1,800 a month, Derek repeated. That's affordable, I finished. On your actual salary with room for savings and emergencies and building real financial security. He nodded slowly. Can I see it? I'll have Michael set up a showing tomorrow. Mom was smiling through tears. You're taking care of both of us. I'm being practical, I said. But I smiled back. Aunt Denise stood, gathering her purse. I think I should go. This is a lot to process. Naomi, I'm sorry for underestimating you. You're not the first, I said. Probably won't be the last. After Aunt Denise left, the three of us sat in Derek's apartment. My apartment, technically, in complicated silence. I feel like an idiot, Derek said finally. You're not an idiot, I replied. You're someone who made some bad financial decisions. It happens. The question is whether you learn from them. I can't believe you own this building. I've been living in your building for 18 months and had no idea. I bought it while you were living here. Your lease transferred to Williams Property Group, but I instructed Michael to keep all the management interactions professional and impersonal. I didn't want family dynamics interfering with business operations. Until today. Until you tried to convince Mom to sell her house so you could solve your financial problems with her equity, I corrected. That's where family and business collided. Derek nodded slowly. The back rent. I don't have $13,500. Even if I sell the car tomorrow, it'll take time to find a buyer and... I'll waive it, I said. Both Derek and Mom stared at me. You'll what? Derek asked. I'll waive the back rent. Consider it a one-time family favor. But the 30-day move-out still stands. And Derek, if you move into the Riverside Complex apartment, I expect rent on time every time. No exceptions. Why would you waive it? He asked suspiciously. Because you're my brother, and despite everything, I don't want to see you fail. But I also won't enable you to keep making bad decisions. So I'm giving you a clean slate and a manageable living situation. What you do with it is up to you. Derek's eyes were damp. I'm sorry. For everything I said tonight. For how I've treated you. For not seeing what you'd accomplished. Apology accepted, I said simply. Mom came over and hugged me tightly. Your father would be so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. When you buy the house, if you buy the house, can I paint the kitchen? I've always wanted a light blue kitchen. I laughed. It's your house, Mom. Paint it any color you want. I'll even hire the painters. After another hour of logistics discussion, Derek's move-out timeline, Mom's house sale details, the Riverside Complex apartment showing, I finally left Derek's apartment and took the elevator down to the lobby. Michael was waiting as promised. How'd it go? He asked. About as well as could be expected. He'll be moving out in 30 days. I'm waiving the back rent. Michael nodded. Family is complicated. Always, I agreed. But I'm offering him a unit at Riverside. 1 bedroom, $1,800. Can you prepare the lease? Of course. And your mother's house purchase. I'll send you the details tomorrow. We'll need to move quickly on that one. She's motivated to sell and I want to make sure she's taken care of. You're a good daughter, Michael observed. I'm a practical businesswoman who happens to care about her family, I corrected with a smile. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. No, I agreed. They're not. I walked out of the Harrison Tower into the cool evening air. Behind me, the building rose 32 floors, each window a story, each apartment a life. My building. My investment. My responsibility. But also my family's home, at least for 30 more days. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Thank you. I'll do better. Then Mom. I love you, sweetheart. Thank you for everything. I smiled and slipped my phone into my pocket. $340 million in property. 42 buildings. Hundreds of tenants. And one very humbling family meeting. But that's the thing about success. It's not about what you own or how much you're worth. It's about what you do with it. How you treat people. How you balance business with compassion, accountability with kindness. My brother had learned a hard lesson tonight. But he'd learned it from someone who actually cared about him, not from some faceless corporation that would have put him on the street without a second thought. And my mother would get to stay in her home, surrounded by her memories, without the financial stress that had been keeping her up at night. I'd built a real estate empire in 5 years. But tonight I'd built something more important. I'd built a foundation for my family's future. One that was based on honesty, sustainability, and genuine success rather than borrowed luxury. And that was worth more than any building in my portfolio. I hailed a cab and headed home to my own apartment. A modest 2-bedroom in one of my mid-range buildings, because I didn't need luxury to feel successful. I just needed to know I'd built something real. Something that would last. Something that could help the people I loved, even when they didn't realize they needed help. The cab pulled away from the Harrison Tower and I watched it recede in the rearview mirror. All 32 floors of glass and steel, glowing against the night sky. My building. My brother's wake-up call. My family's future. And tomorrow it would just be Tuesday. Another day of managing properties, reviewing financials, making decisions that affected hundreds of lives. But tonight had been personal. And sometimes that made all the difference.